Welcome to the Data Strategic Advantage channel. Our topic today is data governance. Imagine you're prepping for a big meeting on data strategy, and you need to sound really smart about data governance. Well, you've come to the right place. We're diving deep into the world of data governance,
That's right.
specifically focusing on some key concepts and why they matter.
And I think it's important to start by recognizing that data governance is so much more than just an IT thing.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about that. It seems like a lot of folks might relegate data governance to the tech team.
Right, and that's a common misconception. It's really about aligning your whole company around how you use data effectively. Think of it like setting up a system of checks and balances, kind of like in a government. You need structure and agreed upon processes.
So data governance is like the constitution for our data.
Mm.
I like that. But how does that actually play out in a business?
Well, imagine trying to run a business where nobody agrees on what customer means. Different departments have their own definitions, track different data points.
Oh, wow, that would be chaos. I
Oh,
can see how that would lead to all sorts of problems.
exactly. You can't track customer behavior accurately. You can't personalize your marketing. You can't even measure your success effectively. And that's just one example. Data governance helps prevent this by establishing that common language and ensuring everyone is speaking it.
So it's like teaching everyone to speak the same data language. No more miscommunication or confusion.
Precisely. And that shared understanding is crucial for making good decisions. It also has a huge impact on data quality.
This is making so much sense. But who's actually in charge of making sure everyone is speaking the same data language? Is there like a data king or queen?
Uh-huh, not quite. Data governance often involves committees, a bit like a legislature, with data stewards playing key roles in defining and enforcing data policies.
Committees and stewards. Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. Tell me more about these data stewards. What do they actually do?
Think of data stewards as the subject matter experts for different parts of the business. They really understand the data in their domain better than anyone.
So they're not necessarily tech people.
Not always. They could be marketing experts, finance gurus, product specialists, you name it. It's their job to make sure the data in their area is accurate, consistent, and used responsibly.
So it's like having a team of data sheriffs, making sure everyone's playing by the rules.
I like that analogy. They're responsible for things like developing data definitions, setting quality standards, and resolving data disputes.
Wait, data disputes, like people arguing about what the data actually means.
Exactly. Remember that customer example we talked about? Data stewards would be the ones to settle that debate and make sure everyone is on the same page.
Wow, so they have a lot of responsibility. But I can see how important that role is for keeping things consistent across the board.
Absolutely. It's a collaborative effort that needs buy-in from across the organization. Data governance is most effective when it's seen as a shared responsibility, not just something that's dictated from the top down.
Okay, so we have committees making the big decisions and data stewards making sure they're implemented effectively. I'm starting to see how this all fits together. But let's take a step back for a second. Why does all of this matter for someone, say, prepping for a big meeting on data strategy? What's the real impact of good data governance?
That's a great question. Remember, we said well-governed data means better decisions, lower costs, and less
Right.
risk.
Yeah, that's starting to sound pretty important, especially when I think about walking into that big meeting.
It is. Imagine you're in that meeting and someone asks, how do we know our sales data is reliable? Or what are we doing to protect customer privacy?
Without good data governance, I'd be sweating bullets. You'd be scrambling for answers.
But with a strong data governance framework in place, you can confidently explain how your organization defines, manages, and protects its data.
Right.
You're not just thinking about data, you're thinking about using data responsibly and effectively.
I see your point. It's not just about having data. It's about knowing you can trust it and use it to make the best possible decisions. That makes a lot of sense. But I have to be honest, it also sounds like a lot of work to set all of this up.
It can be, but the benefits far outweigh the costs. And it doesn't have to be an overwhelming undertaking.
Okay, good. I was hoping you'd say that. What are some practical steps companies can take to implement data governance? Where do they even start?
Well, first, you need to assess your current state. Figure out where you stand now, what your biggest data challenges are, where the gaps in your processes are.
So kind of like taking inventory of your data landscape.
Exactly. Once you understand your current situation, you can start developing a roadmap for improvement.
And that roadmap would include things like defining roles and responsibilities, establishing data policies,
Mm.
and creating data quality standards.
Exactly. You also need to invest in the right technology. And perhaps most importantly, train your people on the new processes. It's a journey, not a destination.
I like that. It sounds like an ongoing process of evolution and improvement.
Precisely. Data governance is all about building a data-driven culture where everyone understands and values good data practices. It's not just about having the right rules, it's about getting everyone to actually follow them and understand the why behind them.
That's a crucial point. You can have the best data governance framework in the world, but if people aren't using it, it's worthless.
Absolutely. You need to create a culture where people understand the value of good data and are motivated to maintain it. It's about people as much as it is about technology.
This makes me think about the different company cultures I've experienced. Some are very data-driven, while others not so much. How do you actually build that data-driven culture? Do you have any tips for our listeners who might be trying to do just that?
Communication is key. You need to explain to people why data governance matters and how it benefits them personally.
So don't just throw a bunch of rules at them. You have to explain the why behind the what.
Right. Show them how good data can help them do their jobs better, make better decisions, and ultimately achieve better results.
It's about making it personal and relevant to their day-to-day work.
Exactly. And you need to lead by example. If leaders don't value data, why should anyone else? Data governance has to start at the top.
That's so true. It's about setting the tone for the whole organization.
Okay, this is all making a lot of sense. It feels like we're building a solid foundation for understanding what good data governance looks like. Where should we go from here?
I think a good way to visualize this is to think about data governance like building a house.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You need a strong foundation, that's your data governance framework. You need high-quality materials, that's accurate and consistent data. And of course, you need skilled builders, your data stewards and other data professionals.
And just like with a house, you need a clear vision for what you're trying to build. In this case, that vision is a data-driven culture.
Exactly. Without all of those elements, the house is going to fall apart. Data governance is about creating a sustainable system for managing and using data effectively. It's an investment that pays off in the long run. So it's really about creating a competitive advantage for your business by making sure your data is working for you, not against you.
Precisely. And that's something you can really emphasize in your big meeting.
You know, we've covered a lot of ground today. I feel like I have a much better grasp on what data governance really is and why it matters.
We've barely scratched the surface, but hopefully this has given our listeners a good overview of why data governance is so important.
Absolutely. And for those prepping for that big meeting, you should be feeling a lot more confident now.
You have the knowledge to impress even the most data-savvy executive. You can explain what data governance is, why it matters, and how it can benefit your organization. You can even throw in a few analogies about political systems and house building.
I'll be sure to drop your name. But seriously, data governance is such a complex and evolving field. It feels like there's always more to learn.
That's the beauty of it. The best way to learn is to start putting these principles into practice.
So our challenge to you, dear listener, is to start thinking about how you can apply data governance in your own work.
Even small steps can make a big difference, whether it's defining clear data definitions for your team or advocating for a more data-driven culture in your company. Every little bit helps.
I love that. It's about starting somewhere and building momentum.
Exactly. And remember, data governance isn't just about compliance or checking boxes. It's about unlocking the true potential of your data. It's about making better decisions, driving innovation, and creating a competitive advantage.
Okay, before we wrap up, any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Data governance is like building a strong foundation for your data strategy. Without it, everything else becomes shaky.
It's the difference between a house built on sand and one built on solid ground.
And that's exactly what we're helping you do today, building that strong foundation. So as you head into that meeting, remember this: data governance is an investment worth making.
It's an investment in the future of your business. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't hesitate to tell us in the comments what topics are important for you.
Yeah, it really is. You know, as we were talking about all of this, it struck me that data governance is kind of like the unsung hero of the data world. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible, but it doesn't always get the attention it deserves.
That's a great point. It's often seen as a behind-the-scenes function, but it's absolutely essential for success in today's data-driven world.
I think this conversation has really shed light on that. We've talked about the importance of defining data clearly, establishing consistent standards, and creating a culture where everyone understands and values good data practices.
And we've explored how those things translate into tangible benefits,
Hmm.
like better decision-making, reduced costs, and mitigated risks.
Exactly. Those are things that any business leader can get behind.
Absolutely. Data governance is an investment that pays dividends across the entire organization. So for our listeners who are heading into that big meeting, remember this. You don't have to be a data expert to understand and appreciate the value of data governance.
You can confidently advocate for it by framing it in terms of its impact on the bottom line and the organization's overall success.
I think that's a great takeaway. Data governance is not just a technical concept. It's a strategic imperative.
And it's something that every organization, regardless of size or industry, can benefit from.
Well said. I feel like we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. What are some key questions they should be asking themselves as they start to explore data governance within their own organizations?
That's a great question. I think it starts with taking a close look at their current data practices. Are they struggling with data silos, inconsistent definitions, or a lack of trust in their data?
Those are all red flags that data governance could help address.
Exactly. Another important question to consider is, who are the key stakeholders in data governance within the organization?
It's important to identify the people who have a vested interest in the quality and consistency of data.
Right. And once you've identified those stakeholders, it's crucial to get their buy-in and support for data governance initiatives.
It's a collaborative effort that requires input and participation from across the organization.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything we set out to do today.
I hope our listeners feel empowered to start exploring data governance and advocating for its importance within their own companies.
It's been a fantastic conversation. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe and don't hesitate to tell us in the comments what topics are important for you.